The Korean film Assassination was released on July 22nd, 2015. It's a 140-minute spy thriller action film that received both critical and public acclaim. Currently, it's the 11th highest grossing film in Korean history, doing a box office of almost $91 million USD with only a $16 million budget. It even won Best Film at the Blue Dragon Film Awards and the Baeksang Arts Awards. The film was directed by Choi Dong-hoon, one of the most successful directors in Korea. Assassination is his second biggest commercial success behind The Thieves, which is his 2012 film. It features a star-studded cast, including Lee Jung-jae, who is the actor behind the character Yem Sek-jin, Jun Hee-hyun, who's a famous Korean actress and model who plays An Ok-yun, who's arguably the main character, the protagonist of the film, Ha Jung-woo, who plays Hawaii Pistol, this mercenary who is employed by both sides in the story. Oh Dal-soo, who is Hawaii Pistol's assistant or accomplice buddy. Cho Jin-woong, who plays the assassin Big Gun, notably uses machine guns in his combat. And Lee Gung-young, who plays Kang In-guk, who is the subject or the primary subject of the assassination plot. And the film is set primarily during the 1930s, although the opening scene is set in 1911, kind of tells a prologue to the story. And it's based in both Seoul and Shanghai. And it details a fictionalized story about an attempted assassination of a Japanese governor general. A number of assassinations, the first of which was on a Japanese governor general during the Japanese occupation of Korea. And so when I say fictionalized story, I mean many of the characters are based on real people, but the story itself is not one that actually happened. And it follows characters involved in this fight between Japan and Korea and the Korean independence movement. So characters who are in the Japanese military and the Japanese police, the Korean provisional government, and the fictional independence military school, which seems to be based off of the Laoyong military school, which was established by Kim Koo during the Korean independence movement. And so the synopsis of the story is the story follows a Korean rebel named Yem Sik-jin, and in 1911 he attempts to assassinate a Japanese governor general and a businessman. The plot fails, and the businessman discovers that his wife was actually helping him, and so when his wife runs off with their kids trying to escape, he orders her death and orders that his daughters are retrieved. The businessman's daughters are split up, with one escaping with the wet nurse and then one retrieved back to the businessman. And so Yem Sek-jin is caught and sent to prison or into a jail. And he actually becomes quite famous because he becomes the first person to ever escape from this police station. And so he becomes a bit of a hero in Korea at the time, and that allows him to elevate to the role of a captain in a resistance movement in the 1930s. And so this is when most of the actual film takes place. And as part of his duties as captain, he is ordered by Kim Koo, the leader of the independence movement for Korea, to recruit 3 specific individuals to carry out an assassination attack on a governor, a Japanese governor. Turns out that Yem is actually a double agent, and so his whole story about escaping, being the only one to ever escape that Japanese prison or police station, wasn't true, because he was actually just essentially forced into submission and forced to work for the Japanese, and that's why he was able to escape. He was let go in exchange for working for the Japanese. And so after recruiting these 3 individuals who are pictured on the right, he then sells out these 3 individuals to the Japanese, and he's acting as a double agent. And so the Japanese officials try to find these 3 when they rendezvous at a hotel in Shanghai, but the double cross is stopped by a mercenary named Hawaii Pistol. Hawaii Pistol realizes that the 3 people are Korean independence fighters, and he's also a Korean in favor of the independence movement, and so he stops the double cross. In order to counter Hawaii Pistol, Yem tries again to thwart the assassination, so he actually hires Hawaii Pistol and tells them that these 3 individuals are Japanese spies, and so he orders them to kill them, the 3. And in the meantime, Yem is actually fighting off suspicion from Kim Koo that he's a spy, and Kim Koo orders that Yem is killed, and Yem fights off the attack. In the middle of the story, An, who's the woman pictured in the middle of the picture here. She's in the Korean army. Um, she finds that she is actually one of those. She is the long lost twin daughter of the businessman from the beginning of the story, and she finds out by meeting her long lost twin sister Mitsuko. And the businessman finds out that his long lost daughter is in town and is part of this Korean independence movement, and so he kills Mitsuko, thinking that Mitsuko is An. And so um, An sees her twin sister die in front of her, and she assumes her place, attends her wedding, and goes off to try to complete the assassination attempt of the businessman, of her father, with the help of Hawaii Pistol, Big Gun, and the other um, Korean independence fighters. And unfortunately, she's the only one to eventually survive after this assassination plot, as Hawaii Pistol is killed by Yem Sek-jin, and Hawaii Pistol actually uh, wounds Yem Sik-jin very, very badly, but he's able to survive. And then the movie ends with the Koreans gaining independence on National Liberation Day from Japan, and establishing their own nation. And after the war, Yem Sik-jin is put on trial for treason and crimes against Korea. So actually, during the war, he became the head of military secret police, secret military police for Japan. And so he's put on trial for his treason, but there's a lack of evidence, hard evidence on his crimes, and the one key witness who is going to testify against him is suspiciously killed, and so he is allowed to go free, despite the fact that pretty much everyone believes and knows that he was a double agent. And so I think this film, even though it's a action film and it's a thriller and it's wildly entertaining with a lot of spies and explosions, and it's a very exciting film. I think it hits on a lot of key themes and shows a lot about the history of Korea, especially during this time. And so one of those themes is loyalty. So we see that the businessman Kang kills his own daughter because his daughter was working, or was part of the Korean independence movement and was working with the people who were trying to kill him. And so you can see this kind of loyalty and the division that is created by the Japanese occupation of Korea, even between these families. You can see greed and guilt. So Yem Sek-jin was initially forced to be a Japanese spy by the Japanese as part of why he was caught, or why he was released after being caught for his assassination attempt. But you can see throughout the film, he even asks Hawaii Pistol, when Hawaii Pistol works against him, if someone paid Hawaii Pistol more than Yem paid Hawaii Pistol, right? And so there's kind of this theme of greed and guilt and working for whoever's the highest bidder rather than doing what's right. And that idea is represented by Yem and countered by An, who An does what she believes is right, even going as far as to be willing to kill her own father for the independence movement, while Yem tries to essentially game the system and win and do whatever's going to benefit him the most. And he even says that he didn't think Korea would ever be free, and so that's why he was willing to do the things he did and help the Japanese, because it paid him a lot. There's also the theme of hope, where the Korean independence movement is able to survive based off hope and faith and belief that things would get better, even if they didn't really know that they would. And then the final theme of fairness and justice. So we see at the end of the film, Yem Sek-jin is allowed to go free after his trial because of the lack of evidence, hard evidence, and testifying witnesses against him. Despite the fact that many people in the room kind of know and believe that he was guilty and he was working for the Japanese. And so there's a theme of fairness and justice where even though people believe he's guilty, in the court of law he was let go, and because that is what was fair, and even if it wasn't necessarily the just thing to do. And so there's this is a demonstration of how Korea is building this fair and just society built on rules, but how corruption still persists, because shortly after he's let go on the trial, Yem Sek-jin is assassinated himself. And so I think this movie shows a lot about those various themes in Korean society.